Hello and welcome to the latest edition of our Expert Voice webinar series, where we speak to regional construction experts and leaders about the issues and challenges facing our industry and how they're helping shape the way the construction is done in the region. Today, we're speaking to Ian Williamson, Chief Project Delivery Officer for the Red Sea Development Company. Ian is responsible for leading development and delivery of the planning, design, and construction of Saudi Arabia's most ambitious tourism destination. As an executive and board director for more than 25 years, Ian has undertaken both strategic and operational roles, working with companies such as AECOM and Arcadis in both Europe and the Middle East. So, without any further ado, thank you for joining ME Construction News, Ian. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Great to meet you again, Gavin. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. And thanks again for taking the time out to join us. So jumping in straight into the conversation. Now, while the Red Sea project is probably, I would say, the most famous destination project under development in the Middle East today, could you tell us a little bit about the project and update us about the current progress with it, and maybe give us a bit of an idea of what's in the pipeline for the Red Sea Development Company in coming months?
Sure, Gavin. Look, I mean, the Red Sea project is, a staggering scale and amazing natural beauty. A 28,000 square kilometer site. So it's a country scale. It's got an amazing natural beauty with some of the world's best coral, a lot of mangrove fringed islands, over 200 kilometers of coastline, 100 mountains, several volcanoes, active, but this concept of natural beauty on an incredible scale, an incredible population, and strangely hardly anyone has ever inhabited either the islands or the coastline. So this amazing challenge to develop on behalf of the Saudi government a luxury tourist destination, I think one of a type in the world in terms of the natural landscape and footprint we've been given to develop this project in. Very much part of the 2030 vision. So it is around creating 35,000 new jobs, direct jobs, and 35,000 indirect jobs, and contributing to the GDP of the country to the scale of around 25 billion riyal. So, it's very much one of the giga projects contributing to the vision and raising the tourism contribution in Saudi Arabia by 2030 to 2% of GDP. So that's the context. That's why the project was initiated, and it's a brainchild of the government, and very much a passion for His Royal Highness MBS, who's our chairman. We're privileged to have him as our chairman, and a number of the leading ministers in the country on our board. And in terms of progress, I think it's fair to say we've got off to a great start. We had our master plan signed off by our board and by His Royal Highness in November 2018. And really since then, it's been around taking that master plan forward through design stage and in parallel getting on with construction. So we're constructing in a place that's remote. It's 500 kilometers north of Jeddah. It's around 2 hours drive north of Yanbu, but there's nothing there for us to build off. There's a south to north highway called Highway 5 that runs along that coastline in Saudi Arabia, but no power, no water, nothing available to us to get this development off the ground. A lot of our works last year and earlier this year have been enabling infrastructure. Building a construction village to house the first 10,000 construction workers, building road networks. We've already built around 80 kilometers. We've got a light touch with the road infrastructure. We're building on 5 islands in the first phase of the works. That's 5 out of 92 in this archipelago that we've been privileged to develop on. Then 2 major inland sites, in addition to airport, a marina, and all the usual infrastructure you need to service 3,000 hotel keys and several private residences. that's the scale of the project. And quite recently we've awarded Peace Airport. The airside is it's an international airport. People generally arrive from regional hubs. They could come out of Riyadh, come out of Jeddah, could be out of Dubai. Still to be validated exactly which airlines will fly in and from where. But it's a future-proofed airport. 3.7 kilometer Code F runway, which in a different language means it will take the largest civilian aircraft currently known to man. It's got seaplane runways, it's got helicopters, it's got all the usual facilities you expect on a major international airport to accommodate 1 million passengers a year, eventually coming through that airport by 2030, and probably 300, 400,000 in the first phases of the project. Yeah, the airports, the key, the 98%, 96% of our guests will arrive via air. There's sure to be, Saudi nationals coming up the coastline from Jeddah, coming down from Neom eventually, coming across country. But no, this is a remote location. You're going to generally fly in to have a comfortable journey to get to it. So both our KSA visitors, the GCC and overseas will generally come through regional airport hubs to get to us. So this airport is vital. We have to get it ready by mid-2022 because we're still on track to open our first hotels and welcome to the Red Sea project in 2022. That's still very much the horizon. That was what we set ourselves back in 2017 as a target for the project, and 2.5 years to go, but still very much on track. So a lot of the enabling's done. We have a coastal village that will house close to 14,000 permanent residents of the Red Sea. These are the hospitality workers. We then have schools. We have entertainment. It's a small town. We use the euphemism, a coastal village, but in any other language, it's 14,000 people is a small town. We've already awarded the first 10 residential apartments. That was well publicized with the Saudi Mana contracting, so-called DoBox. I just came back from site this morning. CEO and I just came back. They're going up on the second level now, is being put up on the 10 apartment buildings. Very much a kit of parts. It comes as, that's the beauty of modular construction. Very few people on the construction site. And here we are now assembling, 8 blocks a day are arriving, which is 8 rooms. The corridors are precast, the staircases are precast, the lift shafts are precast. The service distribution is modular, is made off site and is dropped in. So bring it on low containers, on trucks, and then train it into position. So you can put an entire floor of a residential building up in a day. So all 10 ground floors are up on these apartment buildings, and now the first floors are going up. And by the end of this year, we've got 280 rooms, which we will take the privilege of using as the Red Sea Development Company during the course of construction. But they're very much the first part. So it's part of a hierarchy of accommodation for the community who will live there. We've already awarded the villas. Awarded to Al Bawani. It's design and build, so they're very much at the early stages of validating the design, going through the detailed design process, securing and early mobilization. So we've got townhouses, we've got villas, we have these residential apartment blocks. We're now in the market. We came out only this last week for 2 other types of residential accommodation. One we call studio apartments. They're appealing to much more single workers, but with self-catering facilities inside. And then we have sort of shared facilities, what we call Z types, which is where a certain level of the workforce will be sharing rooms, and we have 48 blocks, and it's a circa 700 million, 800 million contract with all the other pieces we've assembled around it. So another substantial contract award we're looking to make around October, late October, early November. So the coastal village is really well advanced. It's well designed. with Callison RTKL and Arcadis out of Dubai. And now we're heavily involved in the procurement and selection activity and creating quite a buzz in the industry. And it's going to be quite interesting to see, does offsite manufacturing win out over precast solutions as part of the offsite manufacturing?
That's actually something that I'm wanting to talk to you about. Yeah. That's actually something I'm wanting to talk to you about. Before we jump into that, I wanted to ask, because you've touched upon it in detail right now, where you're talking about these contracts that you've awarded, both from an infrastructure point of view and then for the airport and for the coastal village and all of that. Now, I wanted to know, in terms of selecting your partners, because given the scale of the project and given the standards that you have for the project, it's very important you have the right partners involved. So how do you go around selecting the right people? How do you align them with your vision for the project, and what do they bring to the table for you?
Yeah, partnering is very much, we're not looking for suppliers, we're not looking for contractors interested in a single project. Are probably not the people we need on the project. We need people who see this as, they understand the vision, they're bought into the long-term journey. This is a 2030 final deliverable. I mean, it may be accelerated, but at the moment, that's the horizon for a program of this scale. It's tens of billions of dollars. So, we need people who are prepared to come and invest. And I'd give you Saudi Amana as an example. A UAE-based entity. With a Saudi component, a Saudi organization as very much part of the Amana group, who've chosen to come and set up a manufacturing facility in Rabia, South Abu, on the west coast. It's initially the Red Sea project, but longer term, other giga and mega projects, of which there's a lot across Saudi Arabia. So, we're looking for people who want that long-term partnering relationship. They still have to win, don't get me wrong. They still have to compete and bid and successfully secure projects. But, the opportunity will be given to those who meet our high environmental standards, the bar we've set for health and safety, which is much higher than GCC experience in the past. And that's taken a while just to come in and understand that and, resist it initially and then eventually accept that is, we are serious about maintaining these standards. There's a lot of environmental checks and balances. It's all around environment. It's all around the sustainable environment for us, this project. So there's no shortcuts. There's no cutting corners. We need people who've got the right accreditation as an organization. They have the ISO equivalent certifications. They have got that third-party validation. We do go and visit the major players. We have hopefully briefed people well on the vision and brought that inspiration, and our passion for the project to them. We've encouraged collaboration. We've encouraged getting together of global players with local Saudi companies. So there is a local flavor, which is absolutely necessary. The visas, the workforce hiring, alongside global talent for building projects of this scale. Not just this scale, but this quality standard and the timeline we're trying to deliver. Which is our big challenge, and hence, going back offsite manufacturing is one way you can achieve that quality standard. So, there are a whole multiple of factors. We have a pre-qualification, very rigorous pre-qualification process. Any company is able to apply. We have a REBA site, a website. You can go through the pre-qualification very readily, and there's over suppliers, that's consultants, contractors, and suppliers already pre-qualified. We then call off everybody who's expressed an interest. So I take our airport landside project, which is the terminal building and all the associated buildings on the land side of the airport. There's around 35 companies who clearly had a capability in that regard. And then we're going to assess our track record, the current capability and manning, their scale, their size, their environmental credentials, their health and safety record, the partners they brought in. A lot of these projects are design and build, so which consultants have they engaged? Are they also international best practice organizations? And then, we'll bring that list down to a level of around 15, which we've already done, and then eventually narrow that further for a tender group. That might be 8 or 9 companies invited to tender. We do pre-tender interviews, so we've met all of these organizations face to face. We brief them on the project. We've just clearly some to go on the journey for different reasons, be it current workload capacity or capability. And then, we do mid-briefing during a tender process to make sure people are aligned to the actual project. The pre-tenders around making sure they're aligned to the vision of what we're trying to deliver and the standards we want. Mid-tender is much more around really an understanding of the project. And then we have a very rigorous evaluation process at the end. And I think the people who do well are those who recognize mission is only one stage of your tender process. You then have to follow up. You have to be responsive to verifications and questions. You have to perform well at the tender interviews and bring your A team. Basically, we're not looking to be duped. Clearly, this isn't bait and switch. We want people who list their best capable talent, and they're the ones who come. We list names in our contracts. So we're adamant. If they're the people we've selected, they're the people on our project. So there's that's very much written and built into the contract process. So a bit of a long answer to your question. But,